It's the end of the world as I know it, and I feel fine. Raspberry slowly opened her eyes. She lay in bed, familiar to her, with surroundings looking more like that of a foal's room than anything she'd seen before. Sure enough, after turning her head slightly, she saw the Wonderbolts poster on the wall and pretty much confirmed it. The next question, however, was simple. Where was she? She moved to get out of bed and felt searing pain rip up her side. She looked down to see her body wrapped in gauze. But thankfully her leg was still okay, as she could ever get. Still, she was feeling pain, something that was generally more of an annoyance to her than mostly a healing issue. This was one of the things she inherited from her detested ancestor, Sombra. But with the wrappings and pain, it meant her innate healing ability suddenly vanished. A familiar location. Healing way too slow for normal. What's going on? She wondered. A second later, the door opened and Princess Celestia walked in. She was dressed as Raspberry had never seen her before, in the barding of a mare at war. Stranger still, her hair was not moving with its natural motion, but laying limp as any normal pony's mane would. "You're up," the Sun Alicorn said, relief in her voice. "We feared the worst." "The worst?" Raspberry asked. "You'll notice you're healing normally now," Celestia pointed out. "Yes, and I'm wondering why," she mused. "You were exposed to, amongst other things, nearly lethal levels of miasma." Prince Raspberry looked at her lady as if the armor she wore was somehow dispensing her intelligence. "Princess, miasma's harmless. It only makes normal ponies sick, and it doesn't affect me at all, given that I'm, well, me." The ruler of Equestria shook her head. "The world has changed in the past 3 days, Rast." Rose's eyes widened in shock. 3 days? She guessed, "How long was I out?" "Please, Rast. There'll be time to talk about that later." "Princess, please, I need to know. What happened?" Celestia was about to speak when a guard appeared. "Please, Rast. Rest. Some pony will be by to brief you by it for later. But for now, I have a war to fight." "War?" Raspberry asked, wondering if he somehow ended up in a parallel universe not involving humans. "Regardless, it's good to see you up and about. I'll be sure to let the girls and your parents know. They've been worried about you. Until later." Celestia favored her archmages with a sad smile, then departed the room. It was several hours later when she received another visitor, not tied to the nurses who occasionally popped in to look at her. Princess Luna, wearing silver barding reminiscent of what Celestia had worn earlier, walked into the room. And like her older sister, Luna's hair was not flowing of its own accord either. "That's a new look for you," Raspberry snarked, trying to raise the somber atmosphere in the room. Luna nodded, favoring her friend with a smile. "I had this made after I retired my own armor for various reasons," the Alicorn replied. "After Nightmare Moon's defeat, I thought it would be better to have something more approachable. Either way, I came to explain what's happened, and to apologize." "Princess Celestia didn't explain much. And I have other questions, like where's Healy? What happened to the others? What's happened to me?" She should have said more, but she winced and her host went to her side. Luna bid her to lay back down. "Please don't interrupt your further, Rast. We're doing everything we can for you. Now, as for your pet Phoenix, he's under Fluttershy's care right now. He was nearly killed in the attack on the Sunny Rain phase. As for the others, Lieutenant Zap is in intensive care for severe wing strain. Not to say it'll be a month before she can fly again. She saved your life last. Your sister's mates were able to teleport away, but with injuries severe enough, they're both in surgery right now. As for the Rain phase and its crew..." Luna turned around. "The crew is being awarded posthumous medals for their valiant service, both for trying to fight off the enemy and steer the dying ship away from Cloudy Vista." "Posthumous? Luna, what the hell happened?" "Now I make this simple, but I want a promise from you first. Until we give the all clear, I do not want you to using any magic whatsoever, save for what it takes to maintain your guise. I won't demand it as you need, but rather as a promise between friends. Will you do that for me?" The look on Raspberry's face was one of utter confusion. "Don't know why, but sure, I promise. I'll pinky promise if I have to. Take it this is somehow tied to your and Celestia's bad name day?" Luna smirked. "I suppose you could say that. Anyway, I'll make it simple. Your healing factor was stolen from you. As of now, you heal like a normal pony. Given that we know almost nothing about black magic, it's quite possible that you may permanently lose that ability. To make matters worse, we don't know what other skills you may have lost as well, or if you gain those back either." "I'll take it there's a story to all this?" "There is. 3 days ago, you found out what those pillars really were. You were practically on top of the one in Cloudy Fisto when it activated. A nurse came in bringing fresh bandages, but Luna looked at her, shaking her head. The nurse nodded and departed. The pillars, as we assumed, are creating a magic circle, and Shining unfortunately discovered that their purpose was to becoming a force vacuum, to steal momentum, mana, and in many cases love itself. These pillars would then transform the solar forces to a creature, a centaur named Tirek, that has been a thorn in the side of Equus for a long time. So long he vexed even Discord when he sat on the throne. So, it's an electric magic death? Seriously? More than that, sadly. Equestrians near the pillars, when they activate, were put in a sort of stasis that not only can't be broken, but then affects anyone attempting to do so and transfers their forces to the pillars. Worse, once it taps out the momentum and mana, it seals life forces until there's nothing left of the victim. As of now, all 700 of our subjects, including the young of fatalities, we ended up evacuating the affected towns. Luna looked haggard as he sighed, and Canterlot. Canterlot? The fact that the princess in Electric Stronghold was a worrying thing. So where am I? A home in Pirate Town, on the western edge of Niagara Falls, is where we have the temporary government while we amass our forces in the Empire in Ponyville for the counterattack. The Minolans are sending military forces to assist, as are the Kitsune and Tigers. Unfortunately, we can't spare troops from our overseas colonies, so we cannot rely on the troops in Hawaii, Maritina, or Saudi Arabia. As it currently stands, T-Rex holds a good portion of air superiority, and most of the Navy has been grounded. If this keeps up, all flyers will be grounded as well. Because of the enemy forces? Raspberry asked. Yes, but just as much as because of the miasma. The pillars are not only transferring magic to T-Rex, but have a secondary function. Whenever there are enough gem deposits, even the most minor of ones, the magic is creating golems with it, crystalline imitations of centaurs and wyverns, and sending them against our people. Additionally, the magic circle in itself is slowly filling in with this new kind of miasma, which is nothing like anything we've seen before. It weakens all but the strongest of our forces, and in many cases leads them towards the pillars. I still don't understand why I lost my healing ability, though. Are you saying that I might have lost other powers as well? We believe the pillars function to seek out unusual magical properties, Atacorn, Chaos, Dark, and so forth and so on. During the destruction of the Sunny Rain Faces aerostats, one of the Deckhooves and Lieutenant Zap found your magic being sucked into the pillar. Petty Officer Deckplace sacrificed himself to put you away, and give Lieutenant Zap time to grab you. But the cost is your healing is gone. We don't know how much else of your magic is gone as well. But early reports against T-Rex forces indicate that the golems are harder to break, which hints that your healing ability may have transported en masse to that monster and his forces. So he pointed at our main. This is why we have our own magic. We'll explain further at tomorrow's meeting, Raz. But for now, please rest. As I understand it, a doctor in Manhattan who arrived 30 minutes ago. He's a specialist in magical healing. You should be back on your host by tomorrow. Are you sure? Luna nodded. Rest now. You need your strength in the morning. It'll be a long meeting. Luna lit up her horn, casting a sleep spell on the unicorn. I'll see you tomorrow, my friend. If you insist, Raspberry yawned. Luna saw herself out, and the heavy-lidded unicorn looked into Foal's room, the Wonderbolt's poster, and other things of youth. I wondered how the Foal that normally lived here fared. Did he have loving parents? Did he have everything she had when he was that age? She could only hope he did. As she finally closed her eyes, she dreamed of a life she never had. One where she did have what she wanted. The following morning, Raspberry opened her eyes once more to find 3 mares, all earth ponies, standing in her room. The 3 wore black armor that was completely bare of unit identification or rank. They also wore 2 swords each, and a bow. The lead one, Dakota Dark Salmon, in a mane of Celeste and Alice Blue and same mane style as Cloud Chaser, had gentle yet foul eyes but before her. Good morning, Your Grace. We have been assigned your protectors from this point on. I am Marimba Lando, and your most humble servant. To my left is Kusia Tresendo, a smiling mare with a cream coat and magenta hair and a white tail, and violet eyes bowed. And to my right is Pavilion Beyond, a sleepy-eyed mare with 2-tone blonde mane and waves, rose coat and golden eyes bowed. We will serve you in any way possible. Our lives and bodies are yours to do as you wish. Lady Raspberry. Raspberry caught the odd phrasing. Lives and bodies? She's a smart one, Maddie. The one identified as Puffin said. Turning to Raspberry, she said, there have been times in the past where a hoof has had to guard some pony, takes it a bit literally. It My parents' keys. My father took my mother's validity, and well, Mom had to retire, but the princess insisted father marry mother in return. But blood always rings true, and when I showed the legacy, I came to fulfill my mother's spot with the hose. Besides, Mom and Dad did eventually fall for each other. I see. Well, I don't swing that way. She saw the three mares get look of relief on their faces. Please don't tell me you would have... Part of our duties, Lady Raspberry, Kisha explained. Even if we don't have that inclination, our duties are all. There is a reason why our duties include lives and bodies. The princess has asked us multiple times to amend our vows to her, but we dare not. We serve our reason dutifully for what she's done for us, and we dare not disappoint her at all. Rainbow looked at Raspberry. Unfortunately, our lives rarely come to that. Most of the time, we have much more obeying duties for the princess. And it's only in bad times we serve a positions outside our scope. Besides, if you were, I suspect the princess would have assigned a trio more inclined to do so, fielding mares who are ready to step away from active duty. She bowed once more and said, Regardless, we are the princess's hopes, and this trio is here to serve you, life and body, Raspberry. The princess hopes? Is that enough? All myths have a grain of truth, milady, Pavane explained. Our tribe owes a perpetual debt to the princess for what she's done. We serve her very well indeed. Your tribe, aren't you Earth Ponies? You think that, but it's a bit more complex, and I'm not at liberty to say, Lady Raspberry. Well, I can tell you right now, some of our forces are being deployed to serve the princess in the old ways, she said, nodding her head to indicate her weapons. Others not as talented remain in their modern duties. Kisa stepped forward and said, In any case, we are here to escort you to the meeting. Lady Luna has requested we do so. Lady Luna? Does he mean Princess Luna? Pavine nodded. We mean no disrespect, but we hoes only have one princess. It is merely our way, and I assure you, Ladies Luna, Cadence, and Twilight understand. In fact, Lady Twilight's repeatedly requested we even drop the lady circle yet, but we do have to respect our nobles, milady. Please, whenever you're ready, we will depart, though we strongly recommend you dress suitably for the meeting, milady, Marimba told her. Please. We have had your formal robes sent from Honeyville, Carissa told her. I'd be happy to assist you. As you understand, you're honored by Lady Luna not to use your magic. Marimba nodded. Please assist Lady Raspberry, couldn't path. I move into position until you can utilize any sense of need-be. Magic errors are authorized. Understood, Mary. Pavane immediately departed. Marimba looked at Raspberry. I shall be right back, Lady Raspberry. I need to make sure that pathway is secure for my trip from the manor to the government hall. After a few minutes, Marimba came back, carrying a halberd and a credible staff. Kui, but your Sansei Kujo, Kon. Both Raspberry, dressed in formal robes of her station as Archmage of Equestria, and Kuisa, still dressed in her armor, departed the throne. Marimba threw Kuisa her triple staff. Thanks, Mary. It means a lot to me. You have a triple staff? Raspberry asked Kuisa. The mayor nodded. Yes. It was a gift from the Kitsune Princess Hatsumaru. I defeated her in a duel on behalf of Lady Cadence. In return, Hatsumaru bestowed her personal Sansei Kon on me. My most valued treasure. Are you familiar with them? Not really. Raspberry says the two mayors escorted her from the mansion out the doors into a wide garden. I've only seen them in magazines, though my understanding is that a kitsune weapon is incredibly hard to get used to. Kusisa grinned. I say, I learned it. I gained the weapon from Hatsumaru, and thus was unbound to use it for my duties. It's a fine weapon of war, and lady that sits around gathering dust just won't do. The trio continued to walk through the gardens on their way to the main gate. Raspberry found the place beautiful, though the look of the ponies around was dour. All that looked to the sky, and so did Raspberry. High above, she saw black clouds floating up there, and knew it was miasma, beginning to coalesce as clouds, something that she'd never seen before. Desolate arcs of energy, burning green and purple, tore across the sky. It looked as if the heavens above were starting to fall apart. This isn't your fault, my lady, Marima told her. We heard you tried to stop a team, and that you nearly lost your life trying to hold it, and your companions are still fighting for this. We seek justice for them, Grisa insisted. They are heroes of Equestria, and deserve to be treated as such. As they arrived at the manor gate, Grisa opened the gate and cleared a path, while Marima followed alongside Raspberry. As the duo led the unicorn towards their destination, she tried to talk to them. Marima said that she was in her 30s, while Grisa was in her 20s, Pava in her late teens, and all three wanted this life they chose. Yes, the Princess Hose existed, and served as Celestia's maidstaff in peacetime. Marima and Grisa were one but lone foals, though Pavane had an older brother she adored. All three had been trained in the arts of both domesticity and war since the day they earned their cutie marks. No, they didn't wish for a normal life, because to them, this was normal. So Pavane had told them her parents had wished she stayed with the family. Yes, if necessary, they would sacrifice their lives for save her. Yes, that was just how their tribe worked. Yes, their tribe was as rare as crystal ponies used to be, and only superficially looked like earth ponies. No, they weren't at liberty to divulge that. She had to ask the princess directly. Finally, they arrived at the government house, the building that was serving as the temporary house of the crown. The building, normally, was likely Pirate Town's community center, was a circle of various members of the solar and lunar guards, royal family soldiers, and members of the Hooves. The latter looked to be heaviest armed of them all. Standing by the door was Celestia and Luna, still dressed in their barding and speaking to a well-dressed earth stallion. "Hello, Ross," Luna said, waving her over. "This is Earl Water Spray." I can't freaking believe this. We're dealing with a war scenario. We're dealing with dark times, and we still have time to name a pony Water Spray! Only in a ponyfic, folks. Only in a ponyfic. We're currently holed up in this mountain while we work to recover Equestria. Water Spray turned and offered his hoof for Raspberry to bump. "Duh! Roast meat is better. A pleasure to meet you. The princess has been kind enough to tell me of your efforts to save Equestria, and I assure you the land is in your debt." Raspberry blushed, not sure what to say. "Thank you, sir," she finally said. Celestia addressed the unicorn. "Well, we're about to start the meeting. Please head on home and take a seat." She turned to her host. "Marimba, thank you for keeping her safe." Marimba looked at her leisurely. "And we'll continue to do so, my princess," she said. "We shall continue to honor you and Lady Luna in all we do, both on the battlefield and in the chambers." She turned to Raspberry. "We have to depart for now, Lady Raspberry. I promise you, we will return before the end of the meeting." And with that, they departed.
"I object to this!"
Tumblehome shouted, looking around the number of hosts present.
"Princess, you should have real guards. Your solo guard even. Dressing your mates up in weapons and hoping that they would know what they're doing is not good for your health."
Tumblehome, relax,
Halberd said, his eyes filled with mirth.
"I am sure Captain Armor would not risk his life above his reason and wives onto untrained ponies. I am more sure that they are vetted."
"Thank you, good sir." Amir spoke. Like the host present, she wore a pair of swords and a bow. Like him, however, she wore a uniform that was akin to a guard formal uniform, though there were slight differences. She had a lavender coat, leaving inside mane and brown eyes. "My forces are more than vetted, and I will make them available for training against yours, whenever you wish."
"And you are?"
Tumblehome demanded. "I am Symphonia Breaker," the mayor said with a bow. "Castilian of the Princess Hooves. When she is unavailable, I speak for her in all matters associated with the Hooves. So we are a rankless organization. For the sake of argument, I hold the same rank as you, the good general, and Captain Armor. Besides, Captain Armor will vouch for me."
"Princess, again, I protest," Tumblehome insisted. "If the guard won't do their duty, then I assure you, the Navy will."
"Admiral, you exceed your authority," Luna told her. "Do not worry, Symphonia. We know we are a good host." Symphonia bowed. "Thanks, my lady." "That's your highness," Tumblehome grumbled. "Please, let's get this meeting started," Luna told those present. "Sister, if you would." As Celestia began the meeting, Raspberry looked around. She could see several other senior-ranking mages present from the guild. Most gave her a cursory glance and a nod of acknowledgement, but continued to focus on the introductions. Present for the guard was Shining, via Astral Presence. Additionally, his vice captain, a jovial Pegasus mayor by the name of Aeroswitch, was in attendance, flanked by some of the regional lieutenants in charge of the guard detachments. Halberd, accompanied by some of his junior generals, represented the army. On the Navy side was Tumblehome, as well as two vice admirals who were meek enough that she clearly had them around as CS ponies. Strangely in those, you had three lower-ranked officers as well, two of which Raspberry recognized. Captain Spitfire, commanding officer of the Wonderbolts, and a steely-eyed griffin with a haze-gray flight suit that had to be Captain Gallard, commanding officer of the Thunderheads. The third, however, was a mere naval captain uniform that didn't look at all familiar. On the far side, seated close to Keenan's, attending to Astral presence and wearing a bronze replica of the same armor Celestia wore, was a kitsune and samurai refinery. Finally, through Astral presence, Twilight was present. She was wearing formal attire as Princess of Friendship and wore a torch that held a replica of the element of magic. "Thank you all for coming," Celestia said. "Additionally, my thanks to Prince Dokaku, our ambassador from Inari, for committing his troops to aid us." She bowed to him, and he bowed back in a resplendent manner. "I will not mince words. This is the gravest threat that Equestria has ever faced in modern times. Far more so than the return of Nightmare Moon or Discord's brief rampage. This time, suspects, your fellow country ponies, beings that swore fealty to the crown and I could not protect, have died. Last night I received reports that T-Rex golems are invading Vancouver. The city's defenses will not hold. Additionally, Baltimore, Manhattan, Las Vegas, and many of our largest cities are under attack right now. We even have reports of Chingley spies fleeing for their lives." Several in the room laughed at this. "While many of you may find this funny, I assure you this is no laughing matter." She looked to Celestia again to continue. 3 days ago, our archmages for the Dark Arts, Raspberry Barrel, was partially affected by a near-direct exposure to an activated pillar. In the process, her natural accessory healing ability was stolen, possibly others as well. Celestia looked at Raspberry. "Raspberry, would you be so kind as to lift a statue in the middle of the table?" "Sure thing." The statue of Queen Faust rearing to the sky was made of gold, stood a foot in height, and weighed no more than 10 pounds. Full play to lift. Raspberry looked at it and cast a natural levitation spell that was second nature to all unicorns. It failed. She then cast a lifting spell. To no luck. Spell after spell was thrown at the statue in an attempt to make it move, and nothing happened. Frustrated desperation, she finally cast a force ball at the statue. Chances were it was going to break into tiny pieces, but at least the explosion was a form of motion. But nothing happened. Raspberry looked at Celestia with an expression of horror. "Raspberry, you're not using any magic, including that switch you use for your normal look," Luna said, a look of sympathy for what her friend was going through. "What you're saying?" Raspberry asked, knowing what the Night Princess was about to explain. The look in Celestia's eyes was one of sorrow. "You finally got your wish, but at a terrible price. Raspberry, you're normal and depowered." Raspberry collapsed to the ground in shock. She couldn't stand. She didn't know what to do. She was normal again. Normal for the first time since the accident happened. But she was also very not normal. Unicorns had normal magic. Right now she had none. Just as if she were a 3-month-old filly. Luna was at her side in a flash. "I didn't want to tell you," the princess said. "That's why I wanted to apologize." Meanwhile, as all present looked at the pair, Celestia raised her voice to call her attention. "Right now, T-Rex and his armies are using Archmage's Barrel's power against us all. He will not stop until he has won. And worse, she is not the only one he is hunting."
"August Princess," Prince Dokaku spoke to Celestia. "What did you mean?"
"I mean, Dokaku Dono, that T-Rex will be after Discord soon to add chaos power to his arsenal. After that, he will go after the Alicorns. And after that, your father, the August Okibi. And then, after countless beings after that, he'll not stop until all power is his. Whether that means there's any bearings left to oppose him or is immaterial." The kitsune gave her a wide-eyed look, and the Sun Alicorn sadly nodded. "T-Rex has been running rampant in my realm for too long, ladies and gentle stallions. I think it's time to deal with him once and for all." Celestia gave her forces a surprisingly wolfish smile. "Fortunately, my senior cadre and I have been working on a fourfold plan." She then looked at Halberd. "Halberd?"
"The first part is the easiest," Halberd said as he stepped forward. "We have the bulk of the military that we can spare amassing in 2 places, the Empire and Ponyville. From there, the northern forces will concentrate on destroying the northern and eastern pillars, while the southern armies will handle the western and southern pillars. Our most powerful mages, soldiers and guards ponies, will tear through the enemy forces guarding the pillars, leaving clearance for the ships to destroy them."
"What about the crystal dragons?" the army Pegasus asked. "Those things are nearly as dangerous as real ones."
Garrett laughed. "Oh, please. We're the most dangerous things in the sky, soldier. Nothing is more dangerous than pissed off equestrian, and I don't know about ponies, but as a Griffith, this is my homeland, and I won't be sent for taking over by some scum-sucking land-lubbing centaur."
He then looked over to the Tumblehome.
Ma'am?
My thanks, Captain.
Tumblehome started, giving nods to both Halberd and Celestia. To deal with the air assault, our ships will do what we can. So our main plan is to destroy those pillars. As we're dealing with one-on-one combat, we establish combat squadrons to deal with it. Some of them are already in existence, Captain Galler's Thunderheads and Captain Spitfire's Thunderbolts. But we're establishing another one made of Equestrian Griffins, 2 from the Bat Ponies and the remainder of the Thunderbolt Reservists. After they cover the destruction of the pillars, their orders are to engage and destroy the remaining Crystal Dragon Golems as well. Which leads to the second part of the plan. Captain Armor? Shining stood up and looked at those assembled. Once the pillars are down, Phase 2 will begin. Given the amount of magic T-Rex will attain by then, the Princess and I, with the exception of Princess Twilight, will engage the T-Rex forces. We have reason to believe they are somewhere in the Unicornia Plains, so he shouldn't be all that hard to find. He looked back briefly at Celestia and Luna, then to his wife. Some of you will notice that the princesses don't look as fire as they normally do. That's because they transfer most of their magic to Princess Twilight. While we engage T-Rex, she and her forces will focus on undoing the damage he's done. What if you're defeated? Somebody asked from the back. Celestia looked up, nosing who it was. Took them long enough. It happened during every crisis. There would be always some of the greater nobles looking out for themselves before the good of the realm. This time was no different. Justice Highfalutin had been a recent thorn in her side, and now, with a genuine crisis going on, the young firebrand thought to make her move. Time to remind her who was in charge. She watched Twilight carefully, knowing the younger Alicorn would deal with Highfalutin's proxy. Sure enough, Twilight addressed the speaker. Then I'll engage him, if need be. Droom gasped, looking at the admiration for their young warrior princess. Ponyville stands ready to do what it must, and so do my bears. Furthermore, we all will have forces that are available for the agency to exist. While they are not soldiers, I have no doubt they know how to fight, if it comes to that. Another voice came from the back. With all due respect, Princess Twilight, you're very capable battlemates, but what are the alternatives if the unthinkable occurs and you're defeated? We have to think about the alternatives for our people. Celestia, Luna, and Cadance all looked down at her, then Twilight. Go ahead, Twilight. Twilight gave her mentor a knowing smile. In the event I am defeated, we activate President Wanderer. The room fell silent as Twilight walked to the center of the room, looking at them all. While the main front of our attack on T-Rex forces occurs, we will send 2 small teams to prepare for the worst-case scenario. The first team will head to the known entrance to T-Rex Pocket Dimension to Discord's Pocket Dimension to seal it off. Best way to keep it protected from T-Rex, lest the beast steal his own power. He has agreed to this. Murmurs broke out amongst the crowd. To think that Discord would consider the good of Ponykind above his own selfish desires was shocking, to say the least. The second thing will happen I have no control over, Twilight said. Once the other nations realize we've been defeated, they will do everything in their power to assault T-Rex on our lands. Our diplomatic personnel overseas will do their best to ensure the invading armies will follow the Geneva Convention, but in a catastrophic situation, cannot guarantee they will bind themselves by international law to do this. Louder murmurs broke out with a couple of shocked gasps. This was a controversial statement, after all. If the Alicorns and ranking nobles of Equestria were wiped out, what would happen to the common ponies? Celestia couldn't help but be proud of those present who actually cared about that statement. One way or another, they would do what they could to ensure the safety of the populace. It then happened. A lone mare stood up. She had a satin coat, sea green eyes, and a purple mane done in a style reminiscent of Cadence's. She wore a resplendent white dress that covered her key mark, a diamond tucked by a crown. But she wore a torque that had the design placed on gems. The look on her face was of somebody who owned the place, and clearly thought Celestia as an impediment to her plans. This was Duchess Highfalutin as she prepared to play her part in a game she thought would falter past the Alicorns.
Princess Twilight, far be it from me to question your wisdom, Highfalutin began, but I refuse to believe that in the worst-case scenario, we will simply allow our ponies to be leaderless. Ponykind needs those to look up towards, to be role models and rulers. I would think that someone as learned and wise as you wouldn't do that for our gentle species. Well, honey, we could always do what, humanity and so many other bad fic writers out there who love to insult Twilight and make her look like an idiot, a wimp, a coward, and a scary cat would do and make her go, "How could you question me?" and cry and run away. This is what also reality check with him consequently.
And they wouldn't let the girls do anything. They would actually have the man do it, because we all know how they roll. The 4 Alcorns present read the threat as it was. A band of the people, and Highfalutin would declare herself the rightful heir to Princess Platinum in a heartbeat, and depose T-Rank and Discord to become the rightful dictator and tyrant of Equestria. That's what it took. Unfortunately, Twilight is far from done. Thank you for our concerns, Duchess. It's good to know where you stand. The Princess of Magic let her silence speak for her for a second before she continued. We will not leave our place to the vacancies of the literal and metaphorical 4 winds, Duchess. I will now tell you the final part of Project Wanderer. Should we all fail, Archmage's Barrel will activate a protocol and summon the one pony left who stands a chance of defeating T-Rex. That pony will be our candlelight in the darkest hour. The room erupted in ironically loud whispers. Starswell to defeat her enemies? The Queen, it must be her. Queen Faustus, finally returning to rescue us all. Commander Hurricane will return for the dead to save us? Could it be that Daring Do is real and has a plan to win the day? Twilight let the murmurs die down before she looked at Highfalutin. The Duchess took the bait and asked, And pray tell, your Highness, who will be coming to save Pony Kindness' darkest hour? Raspberry looked up at the Duchess and said, The only other pony aside from the princesses who has ever wielded the element of magic. As every pony looked around in confusion, surprised that Third could wield its vaunted relic, Celestia couldn't help but smile wide enough as with her face in tears she said, Who else? My daughter, Sunset Shimmer. The room exploded in verbal roars of outrage and shock. The exile? How dare she? The would-be Princess Slayer dares to return to her lands? She must be punished! Oh, so she plans to join T-Rex in conquering the world? Princess Twilight, save us from that monster T-Rex and kill that monster as we... Silence! The room rattled as Twilight roared to command in the loudest tones of the Royal Caroline voice as she could monster. You dare threaten the daughter of our princess? The bearer of magic thundered. Spider stanced in a moment. Raspberry drew herself up straight. Sunset Shimmer is not the kind of mare. Not now. Not when she came to see us in Ponyville a few months ago. The room collectively glanced at Raspberry's words. Everything you know about my niece is a lie, Luna said, processing the speech she had been working on for some time now. After Sunset's brief visit to Ponyville, it had been desired to counter the dark reputation she built up in Equestria, will be covered up with a lie. None of them liked that at all, but the truth was because the outrageous stories ponies had said about the Princess Slayer, the typical turn on the dime attitude ponies had about a foe, was defeated and was likely not going to happen. By coincidence, an Equestria Daily article from 2 years ago on the possibility of Sunset's return showed that around the nation, ponies could not forgive this one act. Thus, the lie. Luna, Cairns, and the Bears had worked out with the agency, who had spent the past couple of months laying the groundwork for the moment the speech had to be used. When I was saying that Applejack was disgusted by the lie, that she left the room. She later told him that though she hated the lie, the ponies refused to forgive Sunset just as bad. So while she could not endorse the plan, she understood. So, question, I hate to ask the logical question, but how do they know? It only happened in the Crystal Empire. For 1 day. You see, this is one of those problems I have whenever somebody tries to talk about, oh, how could these ponies forgive Starlight so easily and other bullcrap? Starlight only conquered 1 town. How do the other ponies know what she did? What, did Twilight just go around town going, hey guys, you might be wondering why we left a few days ago? Well, we went to this town. What? When Sunset stole the element of magic, does he just start going around ponies going, oh my gosh, you would not believe the day I had. I just simply went to... Come on, guys. Some people don't always talk about every single facet of their lives to everybody. I swear. Besides, my sister lies in a case into our people via omission. She hid the existence of Nightmare Moon in my exile for centuries. To the ponies forgot I exist, she mused sadly, so lying to protect my niece is something I can live with. After all, running this realm can be a dirty business sometimes. Years ago, when the return of Nightmare Moon became inevitable, my sister told her daughter that she would be the one to likely face me in battle, and it would end with one of us dead. You see, our dear Twilight here may have more finesse and magic than Sunset and Raspberry, but when it comes to raw power, Sunset outstrips them both. The room looked at the Night Alcorn with disbelieving eyes. She knew she had their attention. However, Sunset could not find it in her heart to do what her mother had asked, so she asked to take a journey. A long journey that would take her far from the Pony Lands to places no pony had ever trod before. To learn new skills and abilities that would be benefit to us. Reluctantly, my sister said yes. Cadance cleared her throat and added, however, given how much she was beloved by the populace back then, we knew it would cause my aunt a major scandal to send her only child to what looked like exile. So Sunset and I planned something that would hurt her and my aunt. Sunset would make herself out to be a traitor, turn against her mother, and would lead herself into exile. It worked. Cadance hung her head as if in shame, but knew of an entirely different kind. It worked too well.
Owlbear looked at Celestia. Your Majesty, is this true?
Celestia looked at her faithful general with teary eyes. Those, if nothing else, were true. I miss my child, Celestia said with a true heart. I miss every day that she is in alien lands, far away from me and doing what must be done. I missed watching her grow into the mare she's become. When she came back a few months ago to speak to Twilight, who has valiantly served as my go-between, my heart broke when she returned to the role she was in. I pled with her to stay, but what she is doing now is too important to the realm to have her pulled away so hastily. Was this why bringing her back is the last resort? It is. Celestia smiled. I see the questions on your face. How powerful she could be. That is a simple answer. She's the first non-Alicorn since the days of the old dynasty to be able to access the true power of the sun. And those Sunkeepers did so in groups. My daughter did so in herself. At that pronouncement, more voices broke out in surprise. Raspberry whispered to Twilight's ancestral image. Is this true? Twilight nodded. Apparently, she did it when she was 12. Wanted to oppress Celestia for Mother's Day and accidentally caused a solar eclipse. Celestia said she wasn't allowed to do it afterwards. Oh, I just barely learned how to grasp the sun and moon last week. Sunny did it instinctively. Twilight turned to those assembled. We also hope by heading to where Archmage's Simmer is, she will be able to restore Archmage's Barrel's magic. By doing so, we will remove that acid from T-Rex grass.
Excuse me, the corresponding lieutenant spoke up. Your Highness, is that even possible?
We don't really know, Raspberry spoke up. Dark magic doesn't play by its own rules. And yet, it might actually fail. But we have to try, right? What's the option? Letting T-Rex win? I don't think so. The Mulberry Unicorn looked at the assembly. I hope we never get to the point where you bring Sunset back. I can only hope the beast is defeated long before that. But we have to try regardless. Millions of ponies depend on us. Well said, Celestia told the younger mare. Now, you all have your orders and know what to do.
Dismissed, Luna ordered.